Friends, you all know what a prison environment is like. And if it is a women's prison, it's not just prisoners there, but living stories moving. Around the day I first saw Kieran, I knew why she was here. Her appearance made me think she was quite simple, but when I heard her story, it felt as though the ground was slipping from under my feet. She told me her story much later, but even before that I had seen something that left me stunned. I too came to jail for committing a crime, but I'm proud of the reason I committed it. It gives me peace. That's why I confessed to my crime. Now I'm in prison. I am an educated woman, an advocate, but I can't fight my own case. I don't even think I'm worthy of it. Since I committed the crime, I deserve to be punished. Why would I want to be freed? And even if I were freed, where would I go? What did I have left? One midnight, I heard Kieran scream. I knew everything happening to her was normal as she was pregnant. She was in a lot of pain. Everyone did as much as they could to care for her. However, it was fortunate that our paths crossed. The jailer wasn't a very bad woman. She had already told us crime remains a crime, but she's about to bring a new life into the world, so you all must care for her in every way possible. That's why a separate gynecologist was already arranged for Kieran. All medical arrangements were in place for her. It's not that she showed any bad symptoms, but still, she suffered a lot. She was in so much pain that it disrupted the sleep of all the other women in the prison. Since everyone was awake, they needed to know what was happening, especially since we were not allowed to go where Kieran was. However, it was true that my room was closest to Kieran's. Because of this, I could hear her screams even more clearly. The other women were saying it would have been better if this girl hadn't been pregnant, because just as she is bad, her child will turn out the same. Moreover, what kind of upbringing can a criminal like her provide? And who really educates a child born in jail? In reality, Kieran was sentenced to death, but half an hour before her execution, everyone found out she was pregnant. According to our constitution, if a woman sentenced to death is found to be pregnant, she cannot be executed. And until the child is 5 years old, she cannot be executed. After the child turns 5, her execution can be carried out immediately because a child needs its mother the most up to the age of 5. I don't know whether it was Kieran's luck or misfortune that initially saved her from execution, but the way she was on that midnight, it seemed she would die that day. After some time, Kieran's scream stopped, but then the doctor started shouting. We all were shocked. What happened that made the doctor scream? Shortly after, even the jailer ran away from there, and a strange commotion began throughout the prison. We were all stunned by what had happened. The doctor was immediately taken out from there. Kieran had passed out. They took Kieran to her room. There was a woman prisoner. Among us, named Hajera, who knew midwifery, she was called in. When Hajera came back, she told us something that left us all astonished. She said, "By God, children are born to prisoners and criminals here. I have been here for 20 years. I have even helped deliver babies for 10 to 12 women, but the baby Kieran has given birth to raises a question for all of us. Ask everyone what they have done for her to have such a child, and she won't even admit it. How could she? The result of her crime is now visible to everyone. She undoubtedly committed some major crime, or else this wouldn't have happened to her. I asked Hera what exactly happened. Please tell us everything. She replied, I cannot say. No one can even look at that baby. I don't know if it will live or die. Then she started crying. We couldn't understand why she was crying. She said, but what is the child's fault? What kind of rule is this? First, a woman is forced to commit a crime, and when she does, the world gives her such a terrifying punishment. But this time she has received her punishment from God. It means she must have committed a major crime. As much as she was in pain, I always prayed that something good would happen to her, but when she gave birth, I felt that even a worse condition would have been better for her. It seemed like Hera had gone mad from what she saw near Kieran. Sometimes saying Kieran is a criminal, sometimes saying it would have been better if even worse had happened to her, sometimes saying a strange-shaped baby was born. She didn't tell us everything. Finally, she said, "The jailer madam told me not to tell anyone. Now let me sleep. I'm very tired. I don't know if I can even sleep. I will see that strange baby even in my dreams." We wondered what exactly had happened. Friends, if you haven't liked the video yet, please like it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Here later, we heard that the baby had fallen ill in the middle of the night and had been taken to the hospital. The baby was placed in an incubator. At that time, the baby was in the medical facility and Kieran was in jail. Since she had had a normal delivery, her physical condition wasn't too bad, but she sat quietly in a corner. 2 days had passed and she hadn't eaten anything. Yet the baby was still alive. News kept coming from the medical facility, but the midwife said it wouldn't be surprising if any moment news came that the baby had died. If it's still alive, it's undoubtedly due to Allah's mercy. No one was approaching Kieran or talking to her. But that day I had resolved to learn the story of her life. Everyone said that she had committed such a heinous sin, and that's why all this had happened to her. But what had she really done? Why did she seem innocent to me? There was something we all didn't. I know I went and sat beside her. She knew that I was educated and already knew my story because she had been in this jail for many years. I wanted to ask her what had happened to her. How had she ended up here? And whose child was it? Because everyone said she was unmarried and her child was illegitimate. That's why such an abnormal child was born. When she was brought here, no one even mentioned her husband's name. Her husband was nowhere around. No one even said whether she was married or unmarried. That meant she wasn't married. I sat beside her. I was also afraid because she had previously attacked another female prisoner. When that prisoner was later asked what she had said to Kieran to provoke her, she didn't speak. That girl was terrified. Anything could have happened here. Either that woman had said something to Kieran that made her lash out, or Kieran was somewhat mentally unstable. That's why she could lash out at anyone at any time. I was very afraid. When I was engaged in my profession, I had seen many women like her and heard their stories. I was confident that I could handle this type of prisoner professionally. I did have some confidence in myself. I sat next to her and asked, "How are you?" I started the conversation by asking about her well-being. She said, "How can I be okay? How would you be if you were in my place? No woman can bear the pain of a child suffering." I replied, "You're right. I've also suffered because of my child." When I said this, she asked, "What happened to your child? Are you innocent?" I continued, "No, I am not innocent. I definitely committed a crime, but I did it for my daughter. That devil wronged her, so I killed him. As an educated woman and an advocate, I know right from wrong very well. Perhaps I could have even secured justice for myself, but I knew that justice isn't easily obtained here. Thus, even as a protector of the law, I took the law into my own hands and ended up here, avenging myself and ruining my own life, because at that moment I wasn't thinking as an advocate, but as a mother. He had wronged my daughter, who was so young and innocent. She didn't know the world could be so cruel. But I did what I thought was necessary. My daughter is no longer alive, and neither is the one who wronged her. I am being punished for my crime, but I have no regrets or pain. As I shared my story, she placed her hand on my shoulder, offering consolation. But the Kieran I had heard about shouldn't have been like this. This meant she wasn't a bad person. Who really is bad in this world? Circumstances make a person bad. Seizing the moment, I asked her, "What did you do to end up here?" Because she was also young, very beautiful, possibly younger, and definitely more attractive than me. She said, "My crime was my beauty, which has landed me in this place." She then began to tell her, The story began when we were very poor. My father was very ill and had borrowed money from a man who also helped us with extra assistance occasionally. My mother always told my father not to trust this man, but my father would say, "What choice do we have but to trust him?" He gives us money that sustains our household, and there is always a need for money. What else can I do? I am old and I work as a day laborer. If we don't take his money, how will we survive? My father was right in his place. He had to support the family. I had 4 sisters, but his method of sustaining the family was definitely flawed. My father should have considered why that man was giving us money and why he wasn't asking for it back. I was the eldest among my sisters and worried about them. Our parents didn't even educate us. I would do any job available or tutor from home. My mother would say to get us married off, to sell us to some wealthy man. When she spoke like that, I was shocked. But what she meant was that our father should marry us off to a wealthy man who would give us some financial support and take us as wives. What harm could there be in that? Poverty had compelled us to be ready even for that. But when the man who lent us money heard that we were considering selling my sisters to wealthier men for marriage, he said, "Sahib, then let me marry your eldest daughter." Upon hearing his proposal, my father responded, "Of course, why not? You have already helped us a lot." The man said, "Then let's start the preparations quickly." My father agreed, and I was married off to him. My father said, "I will repay your money," but the man replied, "What are you saying, Sahib? When your daughter becomes my wife, why think about repaying money? Forget all debts. After we're married, her sisters will become my sisters-in-law, and I will arrange their marriages too." This man was 15 years older than me and unattractive. His first wife had left him, and his children were about my age, think about it. He was contemplating marrying the daughter of the man he had lent money to out of compulsion because no one else would give him their daughter. When he used to come to give us the loaned money, we didn't ask too much about him. But when the marriage was proposed, we learned everything that he was not a suitable match. But my father had already agreed. My mother said it would be better to push the girl into a well than marry her off to this man. If she must be pushed into a well, then let's just marry her to him. I don't know what possessed my father, but that man deceived him and ended up marrying me. I could have lived my life with an old, ugly, immoral man with bad intentions just for my father's happiness and for a better future for my sisters, thinking at least it would lift a burden off my father. However, after the marriage, his behavior towards me was unbearable. No woman could have tolerated it, and neither could I after the marriage. He not only failed to help our family, as he had promised, but also stopped all support. He turned me into his business, becoming my pimp. If he had fulfilled his duties as a husband, what harm could have come from that? But he chose a despicable and disgusting path, and I couldn't bear it any longer. So one day I took the opportunity to rid the world of him. That's why I'm now in jail. Kiran fell silent. When I learned the whole story, I didn't think badly of Kiran at all. She did exactly the right thing. A person who could do such things to a woman, especially his wife, deserved that fate. In that sense, Kiran hadn't committed any crime, so why was her child born this way? Why did she receive another punishment after jail? We later learned that she had given birth to conjoined twins. This means 4 children who were all connected to each other. Kiran had already said, "I knew my children wouldn't survive." I asked Kiran, "Were these children also your husband's?" She replied, "No, they were not my husband's children." I was shocked. I thought maybe Kiran had a relationship with someone else. She seemed to read my mind and said, "You must be thinking I had an affair with someone else, right?" No, there was no such thing. I had no illicit relationships. When I came to jail, I wasn't pregnant. But how would you feel knowing that these children aren't mine, but the fruit of someone else's sin? I asked who. She said, "When fate turns against a person, things like this happen. I have already suffered a lot. The man I rid the world of deserved it because he was exploiting me. He would have exploited others too, ruining the lives of other helpless fathers' daughters, running his women trafficking under the guise of marriage. So I believed that by killing him I did nothing wrong, but I didn't know that my punishment was not yet over. When I was brought to jail, a woman came to me at night and told me there was something that needed to be done. Saying this, she took me with her. Kiran explained I was shocked to hear this and asked, who was she? Where did she take you? What did she need at that hour? Kiran continued. I too was wondering what it could be. She took me to a room, left me there, and didn't return even after 2 hours. There was no way out of that room. I was terrified, wondering what was happening to me. Suddenly a man entered the room and I realized that it was not just any room. It felt like hell. Hearing this made my blood run cold. I asked, who was that man? Do you know him? She replied, You know him too, ma'am, and I know him, the one who patrols the jail daily, the man who comes here every day and tells everyone that you are all like his sisters. He says he's talking with the higher-ups to secure your release. He is also a man of the law. I thought he was a good man. His name is Abu Bakr. Everyone calls him Bakar Bai. In front of everyone, he wears the mask of a good person, but in the darkness of night, he does all this hearing. Abu Bakr's name from Kieran startled me. I've said all along that I'm an advocate, but I didn't wait for justice for myself. I believed it was better to take the law into my own hands. But hearing this from Kieran, my advocate instincts were awakened. I shouted, all of you who have been saying all night that Kieran's child is the punishment for her sins, do you know that this child is not her husband's? Then whose child do you want to know about? Kieran tried to stop me. She said, what are you doing? I replied, you are in jail anyway. What are you afraid of? She fell silent. I started shouting again. I told the whole story to the jailer. I informed all of the jail staff and officers, even the criminal himself. Abu Bakr was exposed. He claimed that woman is lying. She is trying to frame me. I retorted, you are the liar, Bakr. Even the fruit of your sin, that child is still alive. We will conduct a DNA test on the child. When the DNA test was mentioned, Bakr fell silent. Soon after he confessed to his crimes, the female jailer said, action will be taken against him immediately. Not only that he will be punished appropriately for his crimes. Saying this, she arrested Bakr. Since then, Kieran and I have remained in jail. Kieran's children are no longer in this world. However, Kieran's death sentence has been lifted instead of execution. She has been given a life sentence. We are still in jail. I have told this story to a friend of mine. He said he would share it with everyone, so others may understand that sometimes those who commit crimes may also be innocent. They might commit a crime by mistake, but that doesn't mean they will always do so. It's often said, isn't it, not only the victims of oppression should cry, sometimes the oppressors should cry too. We committed a crime, but crimes were also committed against us. That is why we were forced to act. It doesn't mean that they can do whatever they want with us. I don't know how many people this story will reach, or how many will listen to it, or whether it will change societal thinking. There's nothing left for us to learn from this story, but we hope that you will learn from it, and you will realize how cruel this world can be, and how often women are merely used everywhere before calling any woman bad. Think twice. Try to understand why she committed the crime. If you liked our video today, please like it and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. Thank you for staying with us till the end. We will see you in the next video.